Welcome. This is the Drupal Usability meeting for July 23rd, 2021. I'm Benji Fisher moderating, and also on the meeting are Aaron McHale, who's sharing a screen, Marcus Vinicius Alves Silva Souza, Cristina Chumillas, Gabriel Abdallah, Gabor Hotzi, Ravi Shankar, and Thomas Howell. I hope I didn't do too much damage to any of those names. And Aaron, would you like to talk about this issue and start off with the issue number?
Yeah, so thanks, Benji. So we're looking at issue 3220437. The front page view assumes it will be the home page and hence doesn't have a title. So this one is essentially spun off from this issue here, which was trying to fix a problem with the title in the breadcrumb for where views titles don't get translated properly, and basically that's impacting the sort of front page that's created by Node. So the primary problem that's resulted in here is this empty little breadcrumb here. So the idea is to see if we can propose a alternative item that would show up here, because in the past this would just be home add content. The front page view would not normally, I don't believe it would normally have a item in the breadcrumb there. And you can see there's a sort of proposed title to go there. So for instance, promoted content be the title of the view. I think there's some other suggestions, so you can see some screenshots of what that might look like here. In the past, I think it was just saying, yeah, so that was another option, was just to call it node, also promoted content. So it was really, I think just to get this moving was just to basically get some opinions or feedback on what the best breadcrumb title should be for this, for the promoted content or node view. And you can see there's been some discussion here basically up until here around what it should be. So someone else proposed just content as a title. So, and that's what that patch does. All it does is just adds content into the view title. So I'll scroll back up here.
So the breadcrumb will show up on any page that starts with /node. Is that right?
Yeah, that's generally how it works, based on path-based breadcrumbs. So
and so
I'm not
that'll affect
sure.
a bunch of admin pages like /node/add. But
Yeah,
if you don't have path aliases, then it will also show up for /node/123, won't it?
that's what I presume would be the case. I wonder actually, I would love to try and test it, but I'm having some getting some PHP error going on here. Just flick back to this. See if I can, I don't actually know what the error was. But, no, it's not that. So I don't know if you can see the terminal I'm typing. I'm trying to remember the right command to view the logs of this container. See why it was causing a problem there.
So anyway, if I'm right that it shows up on both front end and back end pages, then we want to avoid something like node.
Yeah. So again, I guess promoted content was one of the ideas, because if you have that as I guess if you have that view enabled, like if you're a site and you effectively like disable that view or something, then maybe it wouldn't show up.
But is it always promoting content, or is it other things on the back end?
I don't think that view is ever not promoted content. I guess if you change the view, because this is like the default view for, it shows all of the nodes that have been promoted to the front page.
Right, and if you change the front page to something else, then whatever we do to this view will have no effect.
Right.
So I did a little test with my local site, and actually I don't see the breadcrumb I expected to see on node/1. The only breadcrumb is home.
Okay. Do you get the little sort of double breadcrumb thing going on here, like double arrow?
No, I don't.
Okay. It's interesting. I guess, are you running, presume you've updated to running at the latest head?
I didn't update it today, but it's pretty recent.
Okay.
Um, so on the other hand, I did not follow the steps to reproduce. It says I'm supposed to make the URL alias /home, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so create a page with the title home.
Yeah, so it seems like kind of an edge case where you might, this would kind of be only be triggered on the add article, like on the add article or add basic page or add content pages. If you do that, then.
Huh, I'm not seeing this problem.
Hmm.
Oh, set the default front page to /home. So that's the second. I didn't do the second step yet. So configuration, I think it's under system basic site settings. Home. Okay, so now I'm seeing it.
Are you okay to then share your screen if you can see this being reproduced? Because
Okay, yeah.
I now have a working site, but if you already got that reproduced.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to unshare your screen first.
Oh.
Okay, you can see my screen now.
Yes.
So this is the site without the patch applied. So this is the default behavior. So I've created a page at /home. Under basic site settings, I've set that as my home page. So this is sort of the opposite of what I understood before. So I'm not using the default home page. And then let me just reload this page to demonstrate it. At node/add/article, I have this empty breadcrumb, home blank add content. And home goes to the front page. And I think it specifically depends on what you call that. So if oh, there is no such page. So
yeah, so it will, I guess the proposed resolution would be to add is essentially to add a title to the view for the, if you like, the promoted content front page view, to make a title showing the breadcrumb.
Okay, so that test shows it does not depend on what you call the page. So I'm sorry, what did you say, Aaron?
So if you go to /node, it just is in the path /node. Yeah, so this is essentially what it would be looking, the issue is going to try and update is for this particular view to add a if you like, another title to it that will mean that that there's no longer an empty part of the breadcrumb. So if you were to put in like, yeah, something like that.
Text title goes here. And then when I
and if you go to the, I guess if you go to back to like add content.
I thought it was that tab. Anyway, node add article is what I want.
That doesn't seem to be, well, that's interesting.
Let me
Wonder why.
cache this. There we go. I just had to clear caches to see it.
Yes, okay.
So I'm not fond of the phrase promoted content because it looks like it's a listing of all nodes, isn't it?
No, I think it only does show the ones that have been selected as promoted to the front page, because there's, you know, that option on the node form that's like published, but there's also a promote to front page option.
So it's looking at that front. So this is kind of because we've got some legacy stuff in there, things like older ways of Drupal working. It seems very clunky to me because I don't know what like going to promoted content. It isn't really promoted anywhere. Is promoted, like, what is the name of the flag on that? That's promote to front page is what the flag is called, right? On the individual nodes.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, as I hover over the filter criterion, if you look at the bottom of the screen, it's page 1/filter/promote. So the name of the base field is promote. And it is just a Boolean flag, and it has no effect in actual Drupal core, but it does have the effect that it's what this view filters on, and this view is the default homepage.
Maybe if we called it promoted rather than promoted content. I don't know. Because the flag is promote is what you're looking at.
Um, I
My
kind of like the shorter version since this is mostly going to affect um, the breadcrumb.
and it is, I mean, if we call it promoted, that is literally what it is. I understand that like content to me ends up being a broader category, and by not including promoted content, it could potentially avoid confusion with why aren't these things showing up on my new front page.
Okay, I think the other thing about this is I think this kind of highlights just how broken some of the information architecture is in the way that Drupal like organized things. Like it's weird to me that the breadcrumb would be home promoted, add content. You know, like that just sounds
Yep.
like, but that's a symptom of how our URLs are structured. Like, why does add content not live under the content list that the administrative one?
Yep.
That's
I
a
mean,
bigger issue.
and that's really what I would have expected from the ad content is that you would go to the content, the more robust content view. That would have been my expected architecture. I don't know why it would go to the front page for that breadcrumb, period. Whether it's the original default front page or this modified title. To me, it's like it shouldn't be going there. It should be going to like the breadcrumb, as you pointed out, for ad content should have content before it. So that if you want to see all visible content, you can go from add content to click on the breadcrumb for see all content. And then that, in theory, can be a lot more robust because you can have tabs, you can have things that go to um, uh, uh, taxonomy terms. Like it ends up being a more robust architecture because content is potentially all of the information, the data that you put into your site that isn't metadata. And it's just weird that it's the front page. That's strange to me.
I guess the weird solution to fix it, by again a symptom of the breadcrumbs follow the URLs, is to change the URL for like the node ad and all of its subpages to live under /admin/content and then /ad instead of just /node/ad. Like that would kind of fix that problem that we're talking about and would, I guess, be consistent with things like taxonomy and other things, and probably makes a lot more sense in terms of where you would expect those things to live. But I feel like I mean, if we want to tackle that, we could and probably should. But in the context of this issue, I feel like something like content or promoted content makes the most sense, or just promoted.
Since it isn't the content page, I'm uncomfortable with just calling it content. I prefer promoted or something similar to that, um, to promoted content, because again, namespace wise, I would expect promoted content to be the content page. And so I dislike anything that makes me think it's going to be more useful than what it is. Um, so that's my opinion, and I'm going to hush up.
Right.
All right, so I've been experimenting, you may have noticed. Um, and on the front end of the site, whatever you choose does appear on the default homepage as the title of that page. It does not appear in the breadcrumb on the front end of the site, as far as I can tell. So so it seems to me that we have to be most careful about the front end of the site. And if we put promoted or promoted content or anything else here, we're changing the default front page of the site. And that's a more important change than whatever effect it has on um, on the breadcrumb.
I would argue if that's happening, then this change really shouldn't be going through. Because unless there's a way to mitigate that, that's a pretty major effect. Because every site by default is going to then look different on the front out of the box. And if anything, it'll confuse people and mean that we need to update all documentation.
It certainly would require a bunch of updates to the user guide, for example, and other documentation, new screenshots everywhere.
I would prefer that we made the proper fix, which was fixing the breadcrumbs so that it was hanging off of the content page. That wouldn't require this change.
So you're recommending we close it as won't fix and open a new issue to straighten out the information architecture or the menu structure.
That would be my recommendation, but I don't know if anyone else agrees.
I would postpone it, because even when we do that, this particular view still needs an appropriate titling, or like it's basically fundamentally here is pick a good title for this view, basically.
But it's if it's going to change what's on the front page, I'm curious what the right solution will be, because this is going to be it may be one of the only instances in which you have to use a different name for the page that it's on front page under default mode than when it's actually acting. Like
Right.
I'm worried that there's a whole lot of knock-on effects, whereas if we don't change anything, the front page will continue to work the way it does today, and then we can fix this breadcrumb. And I agree that if you make another front page take this one's place, that you're going to now have kind of an orphan view. But we have a lot of views that sit in the system that don't get used. I would recommend that if you replace the front page, this view should probably be deactivated. And I would change that behavior so that you basically are saying, don't use this for your front page, deactivate that view. And if you want to use a content page, use the actual content view, which is much more robust.
Mm-hmm. Because in most cases, as you said, out of the box, this wouldn't come up as an issue, because at first you're gonna not have that's going to be the home page, and you'll never see it in the breadcrumb. But it's only when you start changing what the home page is, or presumably you kept that as the home page, it would be just customized to view more.
Well, if we fix the actual breadcrumb problem, then it really won't show up as an issue. Like the only
Yeah,
way,
it kind of goes away.
Yeah.
Problem. Because nothing will sit under it then.
it just feels like this is a band-aid on the architecture. So fix the
Right.
architecture, you don't need the band-aid.
So we're basically proposing that the best long-term solution is actually to change the node add URLs to sit under admin/content. And also by doing that, we create a better breadcrumb and better eye. And then coincidentally, this no longer becomes an issue.
Yes, I think that's right. And then we can separately discuss whether to change or whether to add a title to the default view.
Right.
You know, the default is just to leave it blank and just to have a list of articles with no title. That's the way it's been for a long time. Maybe we should keep it that way. The the effect that has on the breadcrumb is not a good enough reason to change that. But that's a separate discussion. The real way to fix the breadcrumb is to fix the path structure.
Okay, sounds good.
So Aaron or Thomas, would one of you like to post a comment to that issue, or shall I do it?
You guys do it a lot. I just feel unreliable because I get distracted. But it's kind of my turn. So
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
I guess.
I will remind you if necessary.
yeah, please do. This is I think it's a very good thing to fix. I just need to make certain I've got it open in my browser. So
And I forgot to
Sometimes I
mention
just wait till the recording comes out as well. So.
I forgot to mention for others on the call, if it's easier for you to type rather than speak up at the meeting, I have the chat window open, and if you put something in there, then I'll read it out for the meeting.
could you
and I
just
think
sorry.
I'd like to move on to the next issue. What do you want to say?
Could you just cut and paste the link here from the issue into chat, and I'll go there. That's all I'm asking.
Okay. It's also in Slack. Gabor, are you
Yeah,
ready to share your screen?
I'll send it to you, Thomas.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, then I will stop sharing.
So let's see. This one. Hopefully it's going to be fine. So yeah, so the issue at hand is not this one, but I wanted to start from here because this is where the story started. So we wanted to be able to
Gabor,
identify.
for the recording, can you read out the issue number?
Yeah, sure. So this original issue that is not the topic of the usability discussion, but is where we started, is 3124762. Add lifecycle key to info YAML files. And the reason we did this is we wanted to identify the lifecycle of extension. So in core, we have alpha release of core, beta release of core, RC of core. And we used to have everything on the same stability level as part of the core package. But we started having experimental projects within the stable packages. And now what we want to do is to have deprecated projects as deprecated extensions as part of the stable package. And we also acknowledge that we already had the concept of obsolete extensions, which are things like the migrate multilingual module that was only there to encapsulate a certain part of migrations. And we kept it around for people who already enabled it, but I think we marked, I think that's one of the obsolete ones that we removed from from possibility of new installations because it didn't make sense anymore once we made the migrate multilingual functionality part of the original migrate suite. So basically we have these 4 lifecycle states. So either something is experimental and then it will hopefully become stable. And then after it's stable, it may become deprecated or obsolete. And so we have this concept now, it's committed. So this concept exists as much as InfoYAML file information. So we have this lifecycle key in InfoYAML files, and it contains one of the keys. And so we have an issue to expose that on the user interface. And what we used to have is support for experimental projects. So this is a pre-patch current. How it works right now is we have this core experimental package and we have projects there. So if you want to enable the help topics module, let's say, and you install it, then it tells you that, are you sure you wish to enable experimental modules? Experimental modules are provided for testing purposes only, use at your own risk. Ignore the security message. The following modules are experimental help topics, and then you can enable them. So this is a warning about experimental modules. We already have this in core. And now we want to warn people about deprecated projects as well. So we have this issue, which is the topic of the discussion. This is 3215043. Promote the non-stable statuses in a new modules page, optionally even visually. And the difference here, for the sake of testing, I made the aggregator module deprecated so that we can see how does that look like. So what we have here is that this shows up as part of the core package, but now it says deprecated. So the aggregator is deprecated. Let's say I want to enable it anyway. And the experimental projects also get an experimental marker here. And if you would have a obsolete project enabled, that would also get a parenthesis obsolete. So let's say I also want to enable help topics and install. And now you get a very similar screen as before, but instead of are you wish to enable experimental modules, it says non-stable modules. And then it has the help about experimental modules because I have an experimental module that I want to enable. It also has help about deprecated modules that may be removed from the next major release of Drupal core. And so I can continue if I wish. The same thing if I don't enable an experimental module and I only enable a deprecated module, would be still the same title, non-stable modules, but it would only give me help about deprecated modules and would not list experimental modules because I don't want to enable any of those. So that's basically the UI change proposed. I think that may be a bit of a application here with the group label and the individual labels. And I think we want to keep them listed as a separate group, but I don't know. Basically, this is the UI change as proposed currently and is being tagged for needs usability review. So that's why we are here. This would allow us to remove several single-use modules from core, like aggregator, that is being proposed to remove from core, because we could tell users that this is going to be removed. It's going to move to contrib. The people will be able to use it from contrib with Drupal 10. That's the plan. But we don't have the level of detail to provide users on what exactly is going to happen. So we have this documentation page that I should also show you that we'll link to. And that explains deprecated and obsolete modules and themes. And so the concept is going to be introduced in Drupal 9.3. and it explains that what deprecated and obsolete extensions are.
I have
Thanks,
that's it.
Heather.
thank you.
Just a clarifying question: if someone were to have a experimental module already or a module already enabled like aggregator, and let's say it became deprecated, presumably they would then say they updated to 9.3 and it was deprecated to 9.3. They would get like a warning in the status messages page or something. Is that something that's being added here, or is it just purely on what we see on the module screen right now?
Yeah, that is actually an entirely different issue.
Okay.
To
All
show
right, I
that.
will leave that alone then.
That's another issue. So this is about the module list. And there's an issue to do something similar on the status page, and that's 3215.045. And that would be showing you deprecated projects on the status page as well.
Okay,
But we
well,
don't have
yeah.
yet an implementation for that to review.
Yeah, we could bring that up at the later meeting then, that's fine. I think that's overall really good. The only thing that I noted was obviously there's some inline links going on in the status messages, which generally you'd want to avoid, but I think I'm okay with it here because it's in a status message, not in a big paragraph. So I think that's probably fine. But other than that, I think it's pretty clear from my perspective. I'd be interested to get some some opinions from people whose prime native language isn't English, because mine is English, so I can't really give a non-native opinion there.
Yeah, this is the before enable experimental modules and after enable non-stable modules. And then you would have a dedicated item here.
Yeah, that's the same then.
I can't speak as a non-native speaker because English is my language, but I did have, so the one question that you asked, Aaron, was actually the first one I had. The second question I have is, what does the behavior look like in the process of switching? So you've deprecated the module, you upgrade to 10, or not even upgrade to 10, you want to switch to the version 9 non-deprecated version of the aggregator module. Like, what does that look like from the modules page? Like, how do you move from the deprecated version of aggregator to the contrib version of aggregator? Do you install them both simultaneously? Do they have the same name? Is it going to be marked as like non-deprecated in the contrib version? So like if you deselect this, does the message go away? So is there remediation steps that someone can take to fix the site?
Yeah, there's I don't know where it was documented, but there's a document, or I guess there must have been documentation for this the other direction, because JSON API did the same thing the other way. They were in contrib and then they moved into core. And yeah, they don't seem to have a direct link here and to document what exactly to do. But yeah, when you have two projects that have the same, they supposedly have the same machine name, I think, for the core and the contrib project. So you would need to install it as a contrib project, and I think that would override the core project, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know exactly what the process for that's going to be. It's not actually telling you to do anything about it. It's just telling you that it will be removed. So that's true that it's not really giving you a hint as to what to do about this.
Right. That's the only concern that I ever have about error messages is I like to know what the remediation is. If at minimum we have it documented before we add these new messages, because people will Google the error message and then not know what to do.
Mhm.
So that would be my
Yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So if a deprecated module is being replaced by a contrib version of essentially the same module, then
Mhm.
it would be nice to provide a link to the project page for that contrib
Mhm.
module. I'm not sure where the best place is to put that link. Maybe it would be in the information on the modules page.
Yeah, it could be the description of the project or something.
Or perhaps it should be in the status message,
Mhm.
admin report status.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, that only shows up though if you already have it enabled. So if you want to enable it, and then you're like, okay, but how do I get the non-deprecated thing? Then that's not going to help you if it's on the status page. Yeah, but yeah, that's a very good point.
I'm actually worried if I think it'll cause problems if you have the contrib version and the core version both installed. But you think the whatever is in your modules folder will override what's in the core folder?
I mean, there used to be a module priority thing, version 6. So there used to be a priority of how the extension locator, or whatever it's called now, is going to locate an extension based on the name. Although it may be hardwired now in the extensions config.
Yeah, I guess the problems that I'm remembering were in Drupal 7, and there were multiple copies of a module under cites all modules.
Yeah.
So right, so the priority rules didn't specify what would happen there, but I guess I shouldn't have to worry about that for this situation. We do have priority.
I do think this is a great improvement. I do think this is a great improvement, though I look forward to talking about the statuses page because I have opinions, and that's the bigger for me. That's always been the bigger question is the errors that it throws on that page. So, but that is not today. So I look forward to that conversation.
Yeah, and I think as part of that, one of the things would be we want to look at specifically is how do those, if you have a deprecated module installed, for instance, or arguably experimental or obsolete as well, what are the errors that you get on the modules page itself that probably direct you to the status report page? Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but presumably we would want those to be sort of a bit different or more noticeable than just go to, the general error that tells you or warning that tells you go to the status report page. So that would be something to also look at as part of this, I guess, the status report issue, because this one is just really around the install experience itself. But yeah, I think that would be important to look at is the experience you get on the modules page as well as the status report page.
Yeah,
but
I think
other than that, yeah.
I think Catch preferred to look at the status report page first, but then nobody yet provided a patch for that. I don't know which one is more important. I guess the status report page is more important for like understanding the status of your site, which is like similar to how upgrade status would tell you about these other things that you will need to do to get out of whatever problem you're in. So yeah, because the module page it's not really for telling you what not to do or something. I don't know.
Right. I guess I was thinking more like something that's like, hey, you have your deprecated modules installed. either here's the blah or go to the status report page or something. Like that's probably something we would want that's maybe different. It certainly is probably different to what you would get on just the admin / config or whatever like pops up there when there's something for your attention in status report.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I looked at our core extension list. It doesn't actually define where the extension is. So I guess if you replace the breakpoint project with a country breakpoint project, it would not, for at least this config, it will not blow up. You could have it in a different location.
Haven't we also went through this with like media as well? Didn't media start in contrib and then you had to like, there was some migration to bring it into core, and then like there was a whole thing around what you had to do with your site.
Yeah.
So I guess it's just whatever worked for things like, as you said, JSON API and also media, like it's basically just what in reverse. And maybe that's like when you enable the contrib module, it, you know, it uninstalls the core one or something, you know.
Yeah. I mean, if it's the same machine name, then Drupal should somehow automatically take over the code for the contrib in place of core or something like that. Sounds a bit fragile, but yep. I think
it does. I know if you have like multiple modules installed, and there's for certain things, like for instance, the YAML files, I think it will just, if you've got like two that are the same name, it kind of just either ignores one or it like combines them together into one. I'm not entirely sure actually, but I seem to remember I've dealt with that kind of thing where you've got like YAML files the exact same name in different projects, or it gets a bit funny.
That would be a problem.
Oh, I think it was of my own doing. I was like doing some like development migrations and things of modules between different. Yeah, this was entirely my own fault. So, but it's a funny edge case.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's a good collection of feedback to provide. That's for sure.
So can we summarize it? I think one is that we want to find some place to add a link to the contrib project. And we look forward to talking about the status report issue.
And we want to document what to do, like how you get out of this problem, or
And I guess, did anyone suggest having a status message on the modules page if there are obsolete or deprecated modules enabled?
I think that would be the status report's role, I think.
Okay.
Honestly, I mean, if you have an experimental module enabled, then we have a status report card for that.
Yes.
It says you have experimental modules enabled, help topics. Yeah.
You get anything on the exam page? Is it? That's what I was just
extension
mentioning.
Page. Yeah, no. Yep.
Yeah, so that was kind of what I was getting at earlier as well, was about maybe we need something on the extend page, but that's fine.
But yeah, I think this is the place we can actually link to useful things and stuff like that. Yeah.
Would it make sense to add information to the updates report?
Updates report, what do you mean? The
admin reports update. I think there's the link.
Updates, yeah. To update to that version of the project.
right? To update from the obsolete or deprecated version to the contrib version if there is one. I think that might be a good idea, probably out of scope for the current issue, but it might be worth adding another issue to add information here.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah. Yeah, it probably needs a bunch of trickery though to like fake the existence of the project so that it can look up the update, because this only works with projects that you already have. So we would need to somehow, I mean, it may not be hard, I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm thinking of the case where I have a site that does have the aggregator module installed. And the aggregator becomes deprecated. I think this is an appropriate place to have information that it's being replaced by a contrib module in a future version of Drupal.
Yeah, could be. And that's as a separate issue that would be interesting to explore.
It kind of ties in with what we're saying around having like a link on the modules page or something. So yeah, for each individual project, maybe there's something there, like you could put in the info YAML file what it's being replaced with.
Yeah, officially we're not responsible for implementation in these meetings, but yes, I think you'd need an additional key beyond the one you just added, that if something is deprecated or obsolete, you can add an additional key with a link to the project page, if there is one, for the contrib module that replaces it.
Yep.
Okay, we're coming up on the hour. As usual, we had time to discuss 2 issues. Any last comments on this one? So thank you all for coming. I think I have Drupal.org usernames for everyone on the meeting. So I'll be able to give you issue credit. And I will be back next week. Hope to see many of you there. Or then.
Thanks, Benji. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Guys, bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.